Hotseat. I am drilling you today all about plans and strategies in business. How are you going?
I'm great, Simone. I am feeling like back in control. I've overcome every bloody virus you could think of in a matter of 2.5, 3 weeks. Nothing will stop me. I even went as far as going to the gym yesterday. I did a leg workout and my legs are killing me. I can't walk. But I'm back in the office and it's great to be back.
Awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited for this topic because I know, again, I've been putting out some stuff on my socials. I love finding all the pieces where you get really fired up about things and really passionate because it's just so much fun to watch back. So I'm hoping to do the same thing with this topic today. I want to talk about the difference between business plans and different strategies. And I know we've talked about this in length before, and we share this with our clients as well. So, my first question for you is what's the difference? What's the difference between a business plan and a business strategy?
Wow. You haven't gone easy on this one. I think
You're well again now. You're not sick anymore. Come on,
no,
let's go.
we talk about this a lot because obviously we specialize in strategy, and I've certainly been a chief strategist for a very long time. Um, the terms business plan and business strategy are often interchangeably, right? Or used interchangeably, I should say, sorry. But they do hold very distinct meanings and also serve different purposes within the framework of business development as well as management. Um,
Hmm.
Business planning, let's start there. We all know that most people are told by an accountant or by the bank to create a business plan, and they
Hmm.
spend countless hours putting it together, sometimes days, weeks, months, to then just end up in the drawer where no one reads
Hmm.
it. And lo and behold, that is why startups go, "Oh my god, I don't know need to create a business plan," and so there's a whole bunch of things around it. But a business plan is, by definition, a comprehensive document that actually outlines all the specific details of a business vision and objectives. And it also includes a stack of practical elements like, business description, market analysis, financial predictions or
Hmm.
projections, an operational plan, and a marketing plan. So I guess the primary purpose of a business plan is to provide some kind of roadmap for other stakeholders and for the business that outlines how the objectives are actually going to be achieved. And it's often used for securing investments and loans, as I said earlier, and serves as that kind of guiding document for the operational launch and somewhat the management of the business. Right now, if our audience can't interpret my tone, I'm not a massive fan of business planning. Now, I was right, and when I was heavily involved in private equity and venture capital, and and brokering as such, in investment banking and in other areas running large hotels, as in 5-star hotel groups. Um, the business planning was very important for the stakeholders, right? But it
Hmm.
didn't actually help run the business as such because, as I said, once you got your money, it kind of got stashed. So that's when I started really delving in 20 years ago into business strategy and strategic thinking. So, in contrast, a business strategy is actually a very high level plan. Uh, Notice I've used the same word, plan, that actually defines the overall direction as well as the long term goals of the firm or organization, right? So, its
Okay.
focus is more on winning in the marketplace. Okay. So, that's why,
Hmm.
what we say to people is that we write and we create market dominating competitor crushing strategies, right?
Hmm.
I was recently on a call this morning with one of my larger clients that I do only one-on-one work exclusively, and we were redefining the strategy. We looked at the strategic plan that we put together and we went, these three things didn't work. They were adamant that it was a lead problem, that was driving volume down. I was like, nah, I disagree. Looked at the strategy, said, look at the three changes that we made in March because we could reflect back on the strategic plan. And alas, guess what? I don't work in that business 24 hours a day, and I was right. Okay, because and I think this is why every business needs a strategic advisor that they're working with, and that's different to coaching, right? And so let me bring it back. So a business strategy is more around your vision and your mission, right? It's your core purpose. It's the core competencies of your organization. It's the strategic objectives, right? Long-term goals that are based on strengths, weaknesses, and trends. Okay, it's
Mm.
about the scope of business. The market, the segments in which they intend to operate in. Really knowing your niches and then defining out your avatars. Right. It's all about resource allocation. Right. So time,
Mm.
personnel, budgets, and it's also how you distribute the strategic goals. But also, it's really it, I'm biased, but it's a competitive advantage, Simone.
Mhm.
Strategies that differentiate the business from competitors in a meaningful way. And you know, I often get asked by people who don't really understand what I do, um, why do you charge so much? I'm pretty certain that if I have to go back and analyze the value that I've brought organizations over the last 6 years, a 15, 20 grand day with me has resulted in millions of dollars of revenue for people.
Mm.
And it's the small, fixed mindset of small minded people who actually don't get that concept, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you hear those stories about, the plumber coming out and clearing your drain. They charge you $900 and people going, well, why did I pay $900? You were here for 5 minutes. Well, no, you didn't pay me for my time. You paid for me to unblock your drain. The fact that it
Mm.
took me 5 minutes is because I've got the right equipment that costs 20 grand. Like, do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And we do work with trades, so we understand the mechanics and trying to shift that mindset. And people are like, shit, you actually speak to people like that all the fucking time. I have no problem because I don't need the work. And I mean, that might be
Mm.
arrogant, but it's a really good bloody position for us to be in. And it's like let's I'm digressing, right? And I don't want to digress, but this is something I really love. So some of the actionable insights that you can get from this is kind of that reviewing regularly, aligning all your objectives, and also just communicating clearly. That's what a strategic plan allows you as opposed to a business plan. So let's
Mhm.
me, I love giving case studies because I do so much reading. Apple. Now, Apple provides the prime example of how strategy and planning work hand in hand. Apple's business strategy focuses on innovation and cutting edge technology and premium branding, right? Pretty simple for
Mhm.
anyone out there listening. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, their business plan details the specific product launches, marketing approaches, and financial forecasting, right? Really important for shareholders, right? Those other stakeholders. The
Yeah.
synergy between Apple's broad strategic goals and its details business plans has actually helped it to consistently stay ahead in the competitive technology market. And when you think that technology consumption is 20xing year on year,
Mm.
it's remarkable, right? So this is why strategic plans are now the cutting edge. It's why we've built the entire growth school on the foundation of strategic thinking.
Yeah.
People always say to you or to me, what makes your program so different? And it's the fact that we bring all the strategic thinking to the table. We not only do we give you the strategic advice, unlike coaches who get you to come up with it, right? And just waste time, in my opinion. Not all the time, but in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Giving strategic advice and teaching you how to think strategically is building your muscle, is getting you to that next level. And that's, to me, understanding the distinct role between business planning and business strategy is not just crucial, it's fundamental for effective business leadership as well as achieving your long-term goals. Like, absolutely.
Mm. I love that. That's amazing. And we've got Belinda back with us
Where?
watching live. Hello,
Where?
Belinda.
I
I
can't
see you in
see.
the comments. She could not agree more, and it actually works. So
Oh my God, where is she? Where is she? I can't see. For
I
whatever
can't
reason,
see it in the
I can't.
comments.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Belinda. You're watching on YouTube today. Oh my God, it's got a button saying you can ban people. Ha ha! I'm
Oh.
never going to ban you. You're a rock star. You know,
I think they're, yeah, really important points that you just went over there and the difference because, like you mentioned in the beginning, a lot of people do use the terms interchangeably, and it is somewhat similar but so different at the same time. So, Okay, let's move into my next question, and that is really, you mentioned before about a business plan and how people do it and then it gets stored in the drawer. If we're thinking about strategy and if that's what we're focusing on, how often should you be actually reflecting on your strategy documents or strategy plan?
I'm going to answer this in two ways. One, as a very objective advisor, but firstly, how we do it, right?
Hmm.
Inside of what used to be called Evolve, which is now going to be rebranded as Growth School,
Hmm.
and it's only for naughty boys and naughty girls who've got ADHD and dyslexia and all the misfits in the world like me, right? I want a school of people like me. That's kind of crazy. Um, but
I don't
seriously,
know how I'm ever going to facilitate that. That is crazy.
yeah. But look, seriously. So within growth school, I knew that businesses were missing something, right? And having been involved in the entrepreneurs organization, which was excellent in my early years, the executive connection, YPO, and a series of other coaching programs, I kind of went, the thing that's missing here is the strategic thinking. Like these guys, and you know what I realized after learning game theory and working as a strategist and building 80 of my own ventures, I came to the conclusion that the reason why no one has a program with deep strategy is because there's no strategists that can do it on group or on scale because they just don't
Mm.
have the comprehension. And I'm not saying that I'm any smarter. They just haven't built the muscle to be able to spread it around. So I think what's really important to distinguish is that, we review it monthly with a game plan session, which we've
Mm.
refined over 2 years to perfect, right? Thank you to our foundation students and members, particularly Karim and Holly, who have been there since day dot, and they've just seen value upon value upon just watching how you build the stack, and they've grown with us, right? So
Mm.
we do it a game plan monthly, we do it quarterly, we then do it annual. So they're the three. That's the minimum, right? And then they
Hmm.
take that back to their teams. But now let me just talk about it from an objective perspective rather than that subjective. I've tried it, tested, I know what works, and all the losses and experience. Um,
Yeah.
Regular reflection and a review of strategic documents is critical in ensuring that you're actually communicating, right? And your business remains aligned with the goals as well as the responsiveness to change, okay?
Mm.
Especially within market dynamics. We've witnessed, black swan events in the last 5 years, like shit that you don't see. Like the bubonic
Yeah.
plague and World War II were things that, were the last kind of big things that stopped the world. And yet we had COVID, right? Shit, I just had COVID, you know, and it wasn't the COVID that caused the problem; it was the influenza A and the other bloody thing. So, but we stopped the world. Now, if you
Yeah.
didn't have a strategic plan, and I always reflect with my clients, and they always say to me, "Geez, Christian, not only did we get through all of that, we doubled in size." And it
Mm.
wasn't because of handouts. Most of my clients did not qualify for JobKeeper, right?
Yeah.
Or JobKeeper, because
Yeah.
we in the first month we were all on it, finger on the pulse. We knew our strategy. We knew the trends because we updated them every quarter, and we understood shit. If something comes along now, it was very lucky, I got to say, because I have such a diverse portfolio of clients. I heavily involved in the medical industry, chairman of a day hospital. So the whole point is, I was getting access to information from SA Health about
Mm.
COVID in December. So we
Yeah.
were already forecasting and planning. But I took that to the engineering firm. I took that to the manufacturing firm. I took that to the graphic designer business, the creatives that we work with, the psychology clinic in Melbourne. And we just went, oi, brace yourself. But because we'd had these killer strategic plans, we just slotted into the trend section what was going to
Mm.
change. And so we were
Yeah.
forecasting in advance. That's the difference with some business plan that's handed to someone. So the key thing is you absolutely must do an annual review, right? Like there's no point, right? If you have a plan, any kind of plan, even your goals, you got to do them annually. And please don't be one of those losers that sits at the end of the year and says they're going to stop smoking, or they're going to start going to the gym, or they're going to lose weight, or they're going to build $1 billion business, right? And then they do fucking nothing after the second week of the year, right? Or better still, let's say you're one of those people, Kristian Livors, who says they're not going to drink for the month of January, and I'm already cracking my next bottle of Dom Perignon, on the 2nd of January, right? Now, let me be honest with you, I've never made that goal for myself because I know that I could not maintain it. But the truth is, I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Whereas when I put through business goals, and we've done this in our own organization, we set them and we review them every quarter because we don't hit them sometimes, and we have to go back and go, why didn't we hit them? Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the reality of the business, right?
Yep.
You mentioned before about these really big events like COVID and things like that. But the reality is that something always comes up in business, right? There's always a competing priority. There's always a hurdle, a roadblock, something that's going to come in our way. So if you've got a static document that you're using and then life happens and business happens, you freak out and then you don't know what to do. And then that's when nothing happens, when you drop the ball on everything.
Well, you get
or
stuck, right?
What do you see?
So how many people, you're in BNI, we've got you going to all these networking events, and you meet all these people, they're just fucking stuck. Mate, get stuck yourself, right? Join a group of misfits and sit down and work out your plan. And then what you want to do, so if with us, if you work with an organization like us, you're not going to escape, right? You're going to have a plan, right? Before you even start. You don't even get into the tribe unless you do the onboarding process, which is, kind of ridiculous. It's 2 hours of road mapping. It's 3 to 4 hours of strategy. And that in itself is worth pretty much the whole year, right? Because it's kind of what I would charge if you sat down with me for the day, right? So we start you got to start right. Okay. But then you got to, with us, the next step for most people is you got to do at least a quarterly check-in. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you create something, do it quarterly. We do quarterlies where we bring everyone together on an intensive level, 20 hours in 2 days. That's of just work, right? Not the dinners and the fun and all the other bullshit that comes with it. Most people, Amanda, she's watching the replay, Belinda, Amanda gets like 3 hours sleep. She's an absolute machine. She's like the events queen of Australia. And so. But, the reality is doing the work. And it is, then most of these guys, they're all in the gym at 5 a.m. ready to start, and we all meet at breakfast 6:30 and at 7:15, we're boom, right? So, the key is, quarterly check-ins. We then go a bit deeper and go, okay, we want a monthly game plan. Why? Because we want accountability. Business owners are fucking lazy. I don't care what anyone says. We love getting ourselves caught up in all the shit, the shiny shit. Mate, people come into our group and they have shiny shit syndrome. They get the fuck out, right? Like, it's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want you perfect it. You sit on it. And, and I work with really cool guys who support me, and they're of the same school. Like, this is not unique to us. This is unique to really good operators, right? So the other thing is that you want to have event-driven reviews, right? So let's say that, you've got, like, for example, we've got a business at the moment that's experiencing a significant downturn in staff due to COVID and influenza, right? Big family business, lots of families, et cetera, et cetera. So we've quickly reviewed our supply chain requirements and the ability to build. I mean, this is $3-4 million a month turnover business. So you've got to move quickly, because if we were to lose 20-30% of our team, what would we do? Right? So we'll do an initial, and the board will get together and we'll sit down and do that. But if you're a small business, you can do this like that. If you've got no partners, just you, sit down with your team and say, listen, we've got winter coming up, and we know that, we're a seaside restaurant and we're going to be down. So plan 3 months out. What are some of the activities you can do to get more bums on seats? It's about having foresight, right? So some of the actionable items that I would recommend anyone doing is, set those regular review dates. Prepare the review metrics to discuss, and then involve all the stakeholders. Communication, that is the number one thing around having a strategic plan, is to be able to bring everyone together, galvanize them, align them. That's where my passion is, and people say, that's great because, you're an extrovert. I'm not really. A little, but I actually like my own quiet space. But I like to communicate what I'm up to. And look, let me, and remember, when you do this, make the adjustments to the documents. We've got very cool modular tools that we use, and so that makes it really simple. It's all columns and it's all structure, and so you can learn to explain it. But I want to just talk about Netflix for a little bit. Netflix is that incredible, excellent, amazing company that regularly reflects on its strategy to adopt to rapid changes in that digital streaming and entertainment industry, right? They frequently adjust their strategic approach to content creation, to licensing, as well as their global expansion based on viewer data analytics, competition actions, and changing viewer preferences. It's why they want to collect so much data on people, right? Now, this dynamic approach to strategic planning has allowed Netflix to remain a serious leader in the industry despite the intense competition and evolving technologies, right? And, why I've always loved looking at the Netflix model is, Netflix offered the business for sale for $1 million to Blockbuster. And Blockbuster laughed and said, no one's ever going to want this. Blockbuster went bankrupt or closed down 99% of their operations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Big
Blockbuster
mistake
did
there.
not have a strategic plan. They
Hmm.
were fat, arrogant elephants, right? If you're a fat, arrogant elephant company, generally they're family businesses that are second or third generation. Mate, be very careful because you're going to get swallowed up, right?
Yep.
And if not, someone in that second or third generation is going to make a boo-boo, right? And if you're actually a reasonable size and you don't have a board, get one, right? Like, the great family businesses that I have seen, not just ones that I've worked with, ones that I've studied and looked at, because I'm fascinated by them, having been involved in a family business and the challenges and difficulties of what it takes, is quite remarkable. And it doesn't cost much to put an advisory board together. And if you don't want to go to that commitment, join a program like our boardroom program, right? And where you get me as your chair and 8-10 other people around the board table that'll give you strategic advice. Again, negligible cost for a company. And what it is people are not looking at strategic advice as an investment. They look at it as a cost. The great companies in Australia, they look at it as an investment. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Strategic advice is an investment. It is not a cost to your business. If the person that you're hiring is actually any good, they'll have at least a handful of tactics up their sleeve that'll pay for themselves within a day, right? And if they and for a lot of people, like Karim would say, working with me, and even Belinda will say it, right? Is the biggest thing is clarity. Now,
Yeah.
if you who's it? Nicole, one of our clients, is a neuroscientist and chiropractor, and has her own clinic, and we're expanding. She just said to me, spending a day with you, I had fruit salad brain. Now I
Yeah.
have a platter, and I know exactly where everything is. And I'm like, I'd never heard the concept fruit salad brain before, but I've had other people now use it in our program, and so that's the investment you're making. And it sounds like I'm doing a hard sell on me. Not at all. There's heaps of people that you could go to, but make sure you find someone that's actually been there and done that, right? Like you can go and hire a game theorist that from KPMG or Deloitte Global, and they're going to cost you like 15, 20 grand for a session. But a lot of the time, they've worked in one company, and they're normally really big. So small businesses don't have the luxury of being able to afford those kind of costs. So you've got to get into the communities, and not the free communities. What are you going to get? When something is free, what are you going to get? Peanuts.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's this, it's like you want a lead magnet? Yeah, download it, but use the damn thing.
Yeah.
We've got a 7-figure entrepreneur lead magnet at the moment, and it's not rocket science, but it's going to give you clarity. And yet, so many people read it and they go, oh, yeah, I've kind of got this. And I'm like, well, then why are you stuck? Because you ain't got it. You don't know what the fuck you're doing with it. Right? And it just drives me crazy. And I don't apologize for swearing and cursing, because it really does piss me off, because you're only one step away from changing your life. Isn't that right, Belinda? Right? Whereas she's
Yes.
like, hell yes.
Hell
It's only
yes.
been 3 months, but the clarity I've gained has been worth the investment in multiples. But, Belinda is one of our renegade students, because she's been with us for a while and was in
Yeah.
the COD program, where we don't do strategic. We teach sales and marketing tactics. Why? Because a business doing under $10,000, $15,000 a month need sales and
That's
marketing.
what they need.
They need clarity, but they need strategy and marketing. But where do they need clarity? They need clarity in their target market, clarity in the systems they're going to use, and they need it simple, right? You are
Yeah,
truly passionate, Kristian. Yes, I am,
absolutely.
Belinda. I truly love what I do, and I mean, and I thank you for saying that, and I know that you mean it. You become one of not only a huge ambassador of what we do, but we've created raving fans within our program. There's a reason for that. It
Mm,
works, right?
100%.
And
Absolutely.
that's what gives us courage. So look, to me, Simone, you know, reflecting on your strategy documents regularly is not just about keeping your business on track. Okay,
Mm,
it's about seizing the opportunities, but also mitigating the risks in what I would define as a timely manner. So
yeah.
institutionalizing, wow, that's a big word I'm using today. Institutionalizing, right? I'm going to ask Leo to spell that for me. Leonardo's my son, by the way, anyone knows that. Institutionalizing the practice, right, is really, really important because businesses can maintain strategic agility, right? So we all know the power of adopting to thrive, okay?
Yeah. And
Really,
we've
really
seen
important.
as well the clients that actually put their documents, their game plans, their monthly sessions or their quarterly sessions up on the wall, or they have it on a whiteboard or something in their office, something that they're looking at daily is, and I know you're looking at yours right now.
Yeah,
That's
I
why you
always
looked
look at
up
it.
to the side there. We know the power of having that visible all the time, saying it out aloud to your accountability and reaching those goals as well.
Absolutely, Simone. Absolutely.
Okay, time for my third question, the one that you love the most. And I would love for you to share with everyone, what are the first steps to creating a strategy if you don't have anything in place right now? What should you be doing? Where do you start?
Join Growth School, and I will tell you all about it. Seriously, these third questions have really got to stop. I mean, honestly, if someone just watched the hot seat and just watched it, fast forward to the third question, you'll end up having, and you're the one that tells me stop giving away so much value. Um, Look, the first steps to creating a business strategy from scratch. Wow, what a question. Um,
Is it something that you go out alone, or do you really need someone to guide you through the
no, I
process?
think everyone should do it on their own first,
Hmm.
and then go do it with someone. Do it with your
Mm.
team, and if you don't have a team, join a program, right? Start working with Kristian. uh, Belinda, you're cracking me up today. It's so good because I'm actually feeling good enough to laugh without coughing my left lung out. No, and thank you for that. And I know you mean that, but really start by defining your vision and your mission. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, seriously, download the 7-figure entrepreneur. Even if you're only a $10,000 business or a $5,000 business, or you're an 8-figure business, that 7-figure entrepreneur is a little roadmap workbook that actually makes you do this. It forces you to create your goals and whatnot. It's not a difficult tool, but many people struggle with completing it, right? So
Yeah.
define your vision and your mission, right? Conduct
Yeah.
a very thorough market analysis, okay? Perform an old school SWOT, right? So look at the
Mm.
strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats within the industry, outside the industry. The externalities, the internalities. Set a set of strategic objectives. Now, if you're not capable of doing that, just set yourself some bloody SMART goals, right? So make sure it's specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. For crying out loud, right? The
Yeah.
amount of people that create goals and then don't even put a time to it. It's like, what are you
Mm.
doing, man? Like, I'm going to 10x my business. Yeah, great. By when? Like seriously. Um, you know, um, the other thing that you will
These are
need.
simple processes, but they're actually not easy to implement or be consistent with, right?
Look,
It does, from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like rocket science, but it's
it's a piece of
clearly
piss when you
it's
know.
it's not easy to stick to it.
Look, Simone, you've been with me now long enough, 3 years or so. It's not the hardest part about being in business is knowing what you don't know, right? I'm a
Mm.
veteran of 80 ventures now, right? 27 times I've failed, right? And a failure for me is any venture where I've lost at least 30 grand. So people can do the math. But I lost 30 million at 1.2. So it's not It's not like, I understand catastrophic failure, but I've also succeeded in taking 21 startups, my own startup businesses, to over 7 figures. And I've
Mm.
taken another 4 on top of that to 8 figures. And I've successfully exited most of those that not only remediate what I lost, but doubled it, right? Like, so the point is, when you've been there and done it, like, I haven't failed in a long time. Like, it's been a while. It's been 6 years, right?
Mm.
And why? When I say fail, I haven't failed in a business. I fail every
Mm.
day. There are mistakes that we make all the time. We're constantly
Yeah.
changing. This is what we teach people to do, right? So let me just go back to step number 5. You've got to outline those key strategies, okay? And this is why, we don't fail as often as when I was younger. I've got a strategic plan. I used to do business plans. I used to walk into Andy McLeod, best bank manager in Australia, was at NAB, was the reason why I was able to have so much money borrowed, right? I would bring him business plans. He'd love them. We'd go out for lunch. Andy became the head of the dentistry division at NAB, and I don't know where he is now, but seriously, a really good dude, man. I really miss having lunch with him. And the moment they moved Andy away from me, my God, my world got difficult, because these new young guys, oh no, we want all of this and we want all of that, and we want all of this, and they just fucking choked me, right?
Mm.
Now that choking caused some tremendous issues when you're scaling at the rapid rate. So I've learned that. What is it like to be choked by banks? And I was a very young solo entrepreneur, right? I had started my first business at 25, and I had 14 by the time I was 30 or less,
Mm.
right? That's pretty insane in 5 years to grow that fast. And these were $4, $5, $6 million each business, and I started them from like peanuts, right?
Mm.
And when you've got that much energy and that much lunatism and that much ADHD, it's not that hard. But also, what I had was passion and enthusiasm and love for people, and it was in the
Mm.
service industry, so it wasn't that hard, right? To get buy-in from people, because they wanted that charismatic person that was going to give them everything on the table. But man, I was playing so blind, it was ridiculous. And
Mm.
when I reinvented myself and I worked with a former EY chartered accountant who was in my tech group, he taught me everything about looking at numbers, and I owe a lot to him, and the thing is, he constantly reminded me of, you've got to be more thorough. He taught me how to use pen and paper. Like, there were so many things that I learned in that very small stint, right, while I was rebuilding, that I used a lot of that to then transform. And then I still made mistakes because I hadn't learnt strategic thinking. I hadn't learnt the mapping and the structure. And when I went off and studied and went to university, did my MBA, became a professor in another university, learned to scale up other companies, started reading bucket loads of books, it was like, oh my God. So
Mm.
this is why people fail when they're doing it on their own. They don't have all this knowledge. They don't have all this passion, all this enthusiasm and excitement, right? I do. And I never get bored. I mean, the fact that I'm back at work, I love it. You were saying to me, you really need some time off, just rest. No way. What did I do? Rewrote our entire marketing process for our whole organization, right?
Yeah.
Not just one lead magnet. What was it? Like 12, wrote
Ever.
3 different sequences, wrote new sell by direct messaging functions. We built new programs with rebranding, and that was in 2.5 weeks while I'm almost on my deathbed,
I know.
and I'm still
It's
running all
it
the other companies that we own,
it makes us all very nervous when you have time on your hands. We know
but
that means
you know what it
there's a
is,
bucket
Simone.
load of work and change coming.
But you know what it is, and Belinda and our team and students will testify to this. That's when you're the real deal. I never
Mm.
tell anyone to do anything I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Right? And when people show me weakness, and they show me weakness of attitude in particular, they will get a royal size 14 boot up their ass, right? Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, I wish I had that when I had weak thoughts in my mind. You own a business, you don't have an opportunity to be weak, right? Like, you can have feelings, it's great. Like I say to my son, you can have feelings, it's great. Now get over the fucking feelings and solve the problem. Be a Navy SEAL, work the problem. Right? And I
Mm.
say that to my daughter too. Like, you got to work the problem. Why are you feeling like that? Let's get it out. Let's understand. It's the same. It's running a business it's just people, right? If it's not people, it's products. But if you don't have a killer strategy, right, you're just playing the same fucking cesspool as everybody else. And you are playing in that red ocean, right? Like, seriously, you want to learn a thing or two about strategy? Go and grab this book, right, by a bunch of Harvard professors and read it, right? Like, seriously. And, and the thing is, and why people always say to me, why do you always showcase that book? No. That book as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've got them and they sit right here. The books that I look at. You're a startup. Go read this book, right? Like, this is the kind of shit that people don't understand. Like, you've got it, and if it wasn't for people in my life who told me, hey, mate, you got to read more because you're actually talented, but you don't read enough. So there's all this shit you don't know. My God, when you read and you hang around with the right tribe, it changes your life. I hang out with a guy called Taki. Man, every time I see that man, it inspires me to be better. Right? And then they're in a circle, like Dan Martell, when I can hear Dan talk, or even Hormozy, man, he's a beast. These guys are in my inner circle, and it's just insane. You're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, you guys are like next level in your thinking. And that's the key, but they've all struggled at one point in their life. And do you know what they've learned to do? Be consistent. Have a strategy and be consistent. Review it, right? So after you've done the outline, your key strategies, you've got to develop an action plan, and then you've got to establish how you're going to monitor it and how you're going to evaluate that process. So look, I know we're way over time, but I just had this thought. I was reading up on on probably the craziest person in the world, not me, by the way, Elon Musk, right? I mean, everyone thinks he's nuts. The man just had his 12th child. This is all a strategy. He's going to take over the world with all these super nerd children, right? Like with all these different women. I know what he's doing. He's genetically modifying these kids somewhere, right? I don't know what's going on. No, actually, I take that back. None of that is true. I'm joking, right? So please don't sue me for any kind of defamatory comments. But I love Tesla as a company, right? I haven't bought a Tesla. I have no desire to buy an electric car, not because I don't want to be an environmental person. To me, I don't think it's the technology that's going to revolutionize the world, right? I certainly don't think it's hydrogen either. I think it's hybrid, right? But Tesla's approach to creating business strategy, Simone, is focused on revolutionizing transportation through EVs, okay? And what they did is they started with a very clear mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, okay? And what Tesla did is conducted extensive market research to understand the entire automotive industry and, more importantly, customer attitudes towards EVs. So their strategy included not only creating a high-performance electric car, because people love speed, right? Just remember that. This is very clever from them. But also building an entire ecosystem around it, including the charging stations, the energy storing solutions, right? So regular innovation and adaptation have been the key to Tesla's strategy as they continuously evaluate their progress as well as refine their approach based on market feedback and technological advancements, right? Now, I had the pleasure in hearing Elon speak, and I got to meet him very briefly when he came to Adelaide. I was the entrepreneur in resident at Adelaide University, and we were invited to the Adelaide Oval, where Elon presented on, it was Adelaide Oval or convention? I don't remember actually. And there was only 100 people in the room, and he was talking about the battery system that him and Mike Cannon-Brookes had chanted all over the internet. And mate, the guy is super Asperger's-y, right? Like, he's like totally smart, totally on that spectrum. And to overcome that, he's just so focused. He knows what to say, how to say it. He doesn't deviate from it. And he just knows what he wants. And he communicates that to all the important people. Now, don't ask me what he did about Twitter and X. I still can't work that out, right? And I've yet to work out. There must be something, because he's always got a reason behind it. I don't know what it is, but we all know that Mark Zuckerberg wants to take over the world, and he's really a robot. Those memes that go around, poor Zooks. I think for a man that's created probably one of the most revolutionary products, like Steve Jobs created the iPhone, right? Or the iPod originally. These are amazing innovators, but they didn't just blindly start. That's what I'm trying to get at. They had a strategy, they had a vision, and they brought people along. If people had been at our intensive, I did a whole thing on 10x leadership and the framework. And what is it that you need to start 10x leadership? You have to have level 5 fucking ambition, right? All these people that we've talked about, the Netflix founders, the Teslas, right? The Apples of this world, they had level 5 ambition. And if you're a business owner and you want level 5 ambition, then you need to join our community and see what it feels like to be immersed within a group of people. You have to pay. Just join the bloody business growth secrets group, right? We only just started. There's only 200 and something odd people in there, right? And occasionally you'll get some value, and that's if Zooks actually shows you anything that we're posting. You need to hit that bell, isn't it? But look, ultimately, Simone, creating a business strategy from scratch involves careful planning and thorough analysis, okay? But systematically following the steps that I've listed, and I know I went all over the shop, so people are going to have to carefully sit there and intertwine it and unpack it. I didn't want to give all the value in one hit. You can actually develop a really robust strategy that aligns with your business goals. And it also will meet your market needs, really important. No point in having goals and no one wanting to purchase what you have. So make sure that you sell something that meets their needs, but also positions your company for long-term success, which that's the objective, right?
Yeah.
Anything, you've got to build shit that's predictable and sustainable. As a veteran of 80 companies, I know what it's like to build shit that's not sustainable. And that's shit, and it's shit, and it hurts, right? And it's painful. And waking up to going to work and doing the grind and the hustle. You use grind and hustle around me, I'll kick you out. Right? Because you know what? That's the bullshit you're being fed, right? You don't need to do the grind and the hustle if you have a predictable, sustainable system, right? And I was one of those people that got roped into the hustle and grind, teaching, being taught that I had to work 100 hours a week in order to put food on the table. Just bullshit, man. Just bullshit. It's bullshit, right? What you got to do is you got to work smart. And the way you work smart is go see someone who's already done it, someone who's made mistakes. Right? And if they don't cut it for you, go find someone else. And keep going until you find the right person and the right community, the right tribe, because it'll make a fucking world of difference to you and your life, your family, and everyone around you.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. 100%. All right, Kristian, I'm going to wrap you up there. I know you've got another meeting in probably 8 minutes. So
yes, I do.
If we didn't already miss it.
No, it was
Thank you very much.
And I went, oh my God, we're going for 42 minutes. I'm like, did I miss it? No.
Yeah.
It was 1 o'clock.
No. Thank you very much for your time and insights as always. I think it's a really important topic that we dived into today, just explaining the difference between a business plan and a business strategies, that they're kind of used interchangeably, but they're also very, very different things as well. So Kristian Livors, this has been the Hot Seat. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll be back next Tuesday with some more insights.
Now my mum is ringing me, so I better get onto that too. See you guys.
Working with Kristian is a game changer. Hi, I'm Adrian Lee from GrowthLink Coaching and Consulting. I started working with Kristian in August 2020 as his LinkedIn growth consultant. We worked together on his LinkedIn brand for about 12 months before becoming business partners in Growth Outsourced late 2021. Kristian is a hidden genius. He helped me break through a significant financial target by restructuring my growth consulting online business offer. I don't know of any one person who can give you so much focus, clarity, and structure to live your purpose and get shit done. He holds you accountable to your words and gives you the tough love when you need it. I love his no BS approach to business and life. Everyone needs a Kristian Livors in their life. Do whatever you have to work with Kristian. This is just the beginning for us, and I am super pumped to continue growing together. Thanks again, Kristian.